Hello, welcome to this Django project, whereby we'll be creating a simple web page and getting familiar with the Django URL system. So if you haven't already done so, if you watch one of my earlier videos, it takes you through how to set up Python, the virtual environment, and Django. And basically that's where I'm starting from in this project. So go ahead and follow that guide unless you've already got Django installed and you're familiar with starting a new Django project. So I've got Python installed, like I said, and I've got a new virtual environment here called new proj. And in here, this is where I'm going to start a new app, or should I say Django project. So let's get the environment ready. So I'm going to open up the command prompt and change the directory. Go to the C drive. Inside the C drive, I have Python installed. So I'll change the directory to Python. And then inside of there, I have a folder called new proj. So I want to go into there. And then inside of here, I've got a folder called if you're not too sure, press dir. I've got a folder called scripts, so change directory to my script folder. And if you remember from the first video, we need to now activate. So we activate the virtual environment called new project. So now we've done that, so we can go back out and then make a new project. So let's build a new project. So we need to use the script folder again, backslash, and then we're going to be utilizing the Django admin.exe, and then we're going to start a project, and we're going to call that project first site. There we go, and that will make a new project. So if I go back into my new project folder, I've now got a folder called first site. So this is my new Django project. So again, if you're not too sure how to do that or how to get to this point, then please check out my other videos on how to set up Django, like I said, Python and the virtual environment. And now we've done that, I'm just going to put this command prompt or send it to the new project we just created, so first site, and I need to be able to access the manage.py. So let's just make sure it's working okay. So we'll start the actual server by typing in Python and then manage.py and then run server. There we go. So the server's running. So I just double check that. So 127001. Back address :8000, and our project's ready to start. So as I said, in this project we are simply going to build a very simple website using a little bit of Bootstrap to set out some visual elements on the page, but focus on the URL linking and get an understanding of how the URLs work within Django. Right, so let's open up the project in our IDE. So I'm going to open up the folder, new proj. So I'm in, if you're not too sure, C. I put it in Python, new project, first site. So I'm going to select that folder, open that up, and now I have my project folder right here. So I've got this existing area called first site, which has some of the settings that I'm going to need to configure. But the first thing I want to do is build a new app within this project. So we need to go back to the command prompt. I'm just going to close the server by pressing Control and C. And now I need to make a new app. So to build a new app, or to create a new app, if I go to the command prompt, you can see the command here. So it's Python manage.py, start app, and then type the name of the app you want to create. So here I'm just going to call mine website. So once you've done that, you can now see in your IDE, if you're using Visual Studio Code at least, there is a new folder with some files in it. So we built a new app, which is essentially the area where we're going to develop this website. So this is a good way of managing different sections of your application, web app, or whatever you're building, using Django. It allows you to separate components. So we built this new app, and now we need to create some templates. So let's go into this, right click, and I'm going to create a new folder inside of here called templates. Now this folder is going to store all my HTML. So inside of here, I'm going to create a new file called index.html. There we go. And now we have that. So that just starts off and gets ready my home page, ready to be called and to be displayed on the website. So it's worth noting that templates is a folder that Django by default will look for. So if you do rename this to anything else, it simply won't work. So we're going to place all the template files or the HTML files within this folder. So it's important you name it templates because that's where Django by default is going to look for any templates. So at this point, we're going to need to have some sort of visual understanding or some general understanding of what is happening on the flow of work that we do with Django or develop with Django apps. So here you can see that we'll be here on our browser. We're going to send a HTTP request to Django. And the first of all, the url.py is going to look at that request and basically see if that URL that we've requested. So in this case, we're using URLs. So for example, here is a simple URL in Django. And then I might type in, for example, blog. So that doesn't exist. That URL doesn't exist. So nothing gets returned. So saying that, what's happened here is that we sent a request to the URLs, but it doesn't exist. So we just get an error back. So that's the first check that will take place. Now, when we do build URLs, we connect them to something called a view. And this is basically the glue to the system here, because we feed in the URL and the information, and the view that we're going to build basically connects to the model if we need any database data, for example, and also it finds the template that we need. Now, if you remember, we've already built a template called index.html in the templates folder. So the view is going to find that, bring it all together, and then send it back out to you or to the browser so that you can view the page. So that's the flow of what's happening here. We build the URLs first. We don't have to do it this way, but we can build the URLs first, and then we connect our URLs to a view that we build. So this is the nuts and bolts of everything, putting everything together and preparing it and rendering it so that then you can see your request on your in your browser. So let's take a look at the URLs. So first of all, if you remember, when we originally made this project, first site folder was created, and there's a file called URLs in here. This is it right here. I'm just going to close that there. And you can see that there is already a URL in place for the admin area. So let's go ahead and do a Python manage.py, and we're going to do something called make migrations. So this is going to prepare any database models that we might have made. And then we're going to do a migrate. There we go. So basically you can see there, that's going to set up a table for the users. Now, if I didn't do that, we probably wouldn't be able to get into the admin area. So now I've done that, I'm just going to now run the server by typing in run server. And let's have a look at the URL. So just to confirm again, so the URL should be admin. So if I go back here, there's a big error there, and type in admin, you can see it takes me to the admin panel. So this URL is working okay. So let's just make a new URL to see if we can do something different. So I've gone ahead and built some code. The first piece of code here in the URLs in the first site folder, this piece of code is basically going to connect to the URLs file in the website app. So the idea here is that Django will first look for this URL, and then if the URL doesn't match that, it's then going to have a look in the URLs that we place in the website URLs file. So once we've done that, we need to just make sure that because we're using the include function there, we import that facility into this page. Once we've done that, we can head over to the URLs of our website app. Now in here, first of all, we need to import the views because each URL is connected to a view. And once we've done that, I've created an app name equals website. So that just connects to the, connects to this namespace principle here. Once we've done that, you can see that I've created a new path. There's nothing in this path at the moment, so it's completely blank. And I've connected this to the view home and given it a name homepage. So what I need to do now is create a simple view. So I've connected this URL to this view. So if I now go into views, you can see that I've gone ahead and built a new view. So this new function is called home, and that matches up this here. So views.home. So that's the view that I'm looking for. So views home. And basically this is taking in the request from the user, from the browser, and it's doing something with it. So it's going to return the template back to the user. That's basically what's happening here. So return we return the request back to the user, and inside of that is basically going to be the index page that's had all the HTML rendered. If there was any Python on there, that would all be rendered before it's then sent back to the user. So essentially this is just going to return back index.html. So this page, if you remember, we built earlier, we created a new folder inside of our, actually we put it into the wrong place. We made a new folder called templates. So that was actually in the wrong folder here. So at the moment it's in first site. I'm going to drag that into my website folder. I'll move that. So my template folder is now inside my website folder. So inside of there is index. I've just got a simple message, hello, there. So hopefully now everything is connected. So I can go back into my browser and type in this case, I'm going to be typing in the URLs, website. So I need to type website to get this working. So if I do that, okay, it says template does not exist. So one of the issues you might have on yours, depending on what operating system, is connecting the template system together depending on what operating system you have. So there could be slightly different ways to do that. So I put this template folder inside this website app. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the settings of Fairsight. I'm just going to register. If I go down to installed apps, I'm just going to register this new app called website. So I do that right there. So I've registered the new app that I built. And let's go back to our website and refresh, and you can see that it's working. So that solves that problem. So let's just confirm what's happened here. We've typed in website. So that was the URL that we set up originally in this first site here. What's happened, it's now gone and included this as well. Now, because we haven't typed anything into the URLs of the website here, it means that this is the root directory. So if I type something here, test, for example, that just means that I've extended the URL in order to get to this view. So what I'd need to do now is type in test to actually get to the hello again. So if I go back to website, nothing happens. Now, if I wanted to just to use the app as the default web page and use the address right here, just nothing at all, just the domain name in this case, what I need to do is go back into my first site URLs, and I just basically need to remove the word website. So if I do that, that's basically saying that this, with no path, this is the root page. So that's when I now need to go to the URLs of the website, do exactly the same. So the default path or the root path. So what should happen now is I should be able to display my index page right there. So there we go. So I can use this on the root path as well. Obviously, you can change this to whatever you like. So if I typed in test again in my URLs of my website, it would probably now be expecting me to, and it will tell me what URLs are available there. So you can see that it's looking for test, and there we go. So we're back again in test. So hopefully that's making a little bit of sense to you. I'm just going to remove that. So that's my home page. So what I can do now is scale this up really quickly, because if I go to my templates and create a new file, I call that file about us, for example, .html, of course. And now all I need to do now is go into my URLs of my website, copy and paste this right here. This is building a new page. Obviously now this is called about us, and my name is going to be called about us. And name it about us. And then obviously now I need to make a new view called about us. So if I go into my views, what I need to do now is obviously just copy that, put that there, for example, call this about us. You can see what's happening now, and then change index to about us. Okay, so the URL is going to be about us. So I've gone back in the website URLs and I've typed in about us. So that's going to be the the link to this new page. So let's just go into the about us HTML file and just type in the word about us so that we know we've landed on the right page. And let's just see if it works. So this is the home page. We're going to go to about us. / and it's not working. It's not working. So let's work out why this isn't working. So we've got invalid syntax here. Okay, we've forgotten to use the comma. So in the URLs, we need to add a little comma here. I do that on all of them so I don't forget next time. So now we're okay. There we go, about us. And of course, if I go back to the root page, there we go. So obviously now this can be implemented in some sort of navigation system. So if I go over to Bootstrap, I can go to the documentation and just take the starter template and copy that. So I've copied the starter template in the introduction. Come back to my index page. We'll do that first. So open up the index page. I'm just going to paste that in there. So this is my index page. And it's just going to say hello world. So we'll just see that in place. There we go. And now I need to do the same for the about us page. So Django has a built-in template system, so we don't need to keep copy and pasting code from each page to the next. To improve reuse of code, we're going to use the template system now. So I'm going to show you a simple kind of create a base template, and we're going to import that into every page. So if I go to templates, let me just show you kind of a visual understanding what's happening here. So we're going to build a base template. We're going to call this base.html. So the idea is that we put in our HTML at the top and at the bottom, and so on. So this code here, wrapped around in red, this code here is going to be the same on every single page we build. So there's no point copying and pasting it onto every single page. This code here is going to be pretty much the same on every single page that I'm going to build. So for reuse, I'm just going to build the page once, this base.html page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other pages, so my index page, for example, and I'm basically just going to inject this code right there, this index code there. So what I end up having on the index page is this information, and the index information too. So when I want to use it on another page, so in this case, the About Us page, I do exactly the same. So I just need to type out some code that I want on the About Us page, and then I'm going to basically inject it right here, the code from this page, and it's going to then complete the whole page. So that's the general idea of this kind of inheritance template system. By creating this base file, it just means that I don't have to reuse this code on this page and then back on this page here. Because if I didn't have this type of system, every time I updated something here, for example, I'd have to update it here and here. So 3 times almost. So this base system, I only have to update once to update all my pages. So let's go ahead and put this into practice. So I'm going to get rid of this hello world on my index page. And like I said, I need to make a new file called base.html. So this is going to be my base file. On this base file, if I go back to index, I'm just going to copy and paste, or actually I'm just going to get rid of that completely, cut that and put it onto my base. Right, so what I need to do now is work out or define where the information from index and About Us is going to be placed. And obviously it's going to be placed right here. So we're going to see that happen in a second. So what I need to do is define some blocks. So this is a block, and I've called it content. I've named it content, and I've ended the block. So I'm going to do the same up here in this title area. I'm going to make a new block. I'm going to call this one title. Okay. So what these blocks are basically areas which I'm going to utilize to place the information from index and About Us in. So this is going to end up having all this code plus whatever's in About Us and index in these areas. So now I need to basically go into index and basically match up or create a block called content, and the content inside of that block is now going to be placed into here. So I appreciate that might not actually make sense at this point. So let me show you. So if I go into index, copied and paste the block title, and I'm going to call this home page. There we go. So if I go back into my base, and I'm going to copy and paste this code here, and then put it there. And my content from my index page is just going to say, hello, this is the home page. Okay, there we go. So that's going to say that. So I'm going to do the same thing for the About Us page. So no longer on these pages I have all that HTML. It's going to be called About Us, and it's just going to say About Us page. There we go. So in addition to that, what I also need to do is basically import the base page from this page here. Because you remember in the view, we're still calling index and about us. We're not actually calling this base file. So we need to call the base file from the index and the about us page. So we do that by using the extend. So there we go. So it extends the base.html. So this page extends the base HTML, and we do the same on this about us page. There we go. Okay. So what's going to happen now is that we're going to call this page. This page is going to call the base.html page into it here. And then basically where these blocks match, so block title and content, the content on this page is going to be replaced. So block title and block content, this is going to be replaced by the information that's inside of these blocks. So let's see that in action. This is the home page. So hello, this is the home page. And if I press slash about us, you can now see it says about us page. So you can see if I go into the source, you can still see it has all that HTML, but those two areas are just being replaced by what I'm describing in the about us and index page. Notice also, obviously I've changed the title which represents this up here, so home page. If you're wondering what the title was doing, it's the tab text. So that's a simple example of that. So it comes a little bit more powerful when you start doing things like adding a navigation bar. So where you want something to be consistent throughout your web page. So I'm just going to take this code here. Let's copy this code, this navbar code. So that was in components and navbar. And then I'm just going to go back into my base. And what I want to do is put it right here. So this means it's going to be on or utilized on every page that extends to this. And on here, I've just copied and pasted this piece of code right here, this nav to nav. I'm just going to get rid of this form. I don't need that. And then this li to li here for the disabled element. I don't need that. And this li to li, I don't need that either. So this is what I end up with, nav to nav. I'm going to call this website. It's going to call this website. So that's going to be my brand name. And then I've got two links here. I've got a link to my home page and I've got a link to the about us page. So this is a link to the about us. So I need to just fill in this here. So home page. Well, my home page is going to be, we know it's 127.0.0.1 colon 8000. So that's my home page. And then the about us page is going to be about us .html. So let's give that a go. Now we can see a navigation bar. We've got home. We've got about us page. So notice that the about us page takes us right there. So let's just change that. Because I've typed in .html for some reason. Of course I didn't need to do that. Just about us. So I refresh my navbar and there we go. So we've got home, we've got about us. So that's a very simple kind of navigation bar right there. Excellent. So hopefully that's given you a general overview of how to set up some basic URLs for your website. So we'll just do one more. So now we're going to make a new template file called more.html. So I make a new file, and then you remember I now need to go to my URLs and create a new path. So this is just called more. So we're going to name it more. And then of course the view we're going to create is going to be called more. There we go. So that's just my URL setup for more. And then I'm going to go into my, just close all that. Going to go into my view. Going to copy and paste this function right here. Obviously now it needs to be called more. And the web page we created is more.html. So I'll copy this from About Us and I'll go into my templates. Where are we? Go into my template, more, and then paste that in there. And this is obviously now called more, and more, ... And there we go. So obviously I also need to go into my base and set up a new link. So the li to li, I'm going to copy that. So this is going to be called more, and the link is going to be more. Okay, so that should be it. So I changed my URL. I added a view. I then created a more page and connected it, extends the base.html, and there we go. Let's see if it works. So I'll refresh the page, click on more, and there we go. So now you can see that this is broken because what I'm telling this to do, wherever it is, the base, this is basically just going to add on to that. So at this point, if you are going to follow this and wanted to develop this, you could just use the full URL. That will work. If I go back, home, about us, and more. Okay, so that completes this simple tutorial on configuring some of the URL systems and becoming familiar with a little bit of the Django URL system, connecting things up, starting a new project. If you have any questions, please ask any questions you like, leave them in the comments section.